Welcome back to another episode of the HigherUp podcast. I'm your host, Michael Smoke, and today we are joined by my friend, a successful owner of multiple seven-figure coaching businesses, and the man who made me cry in Austin, Texas, my good friend, Nick Komodina. Thank you for being here, man.
What's up, brother? Happy to be here and honored to have made you cry.
Yeah, it was a blessing. It was not. I would normally say a blessing and a curse, but it was only a blessing, and we'll talk about maybe why that happened, what the lore is there. But why are we here? What are we really doing on this podcast right now?
I don't think we have a clue. We're here to grip it and rip it and conversate. I mean, Michael and I are doing live events here for the rest of the year. We have three main locations: Tampa, Atlanta, and then finishing off in Austin. And we wanted to come on and we wanted to genuinely, we do not have a script or any sort of intention for this podcast other for us to talk, give you guys some value, and open the opportunity for you guys to come to our event if that's what you feel called to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My hope is that through this conversation, we give people a little bit of a taste of like what you can expect from us being in the room, sharing our experiences and trying to just provide as much value as we can to the people that come. And this is like a sample of that experience. And
a soft launch, if you will.
A soft launch of the relationship. Yes. We haven't gotten to posting each other on the gram yet.
Yeah.
But actually we kind of have. But the goal of this conversation is simple. We're going to talk about our insights, our knowledge, our experience, and hopes to give you a little bit of what it would feel like if you were to come in person. And if you decide to, there will be a link in the description of this podcast episode, wherever you're watching it, Spotify, YouTube, or Apple, to grab a ticket at a discounted rate in Tampa, September 5th, Atlanta, October 24th, and Austin, the big show, the 3-day event, December 4th through the 6th. It's going to be an incredible workshop filled with lots of exercises and hopefully help a lot of people get aligned on where they're heading and where they say they want to go and figure out what their, as you would say so well, is their highest timeline. Maybe we start there. I had never heard. So the way that you and I met was Kelly Poole, your friend and colleague, was kind enough to introduce us. And she said, I think you guys would be friends and that Michael should speak at your event. And you so brilliantly said to me later, you had already been filtered through Kelly. Yeah. And you were kind enough in our first convo to just say, so when do you want to speak at the event? And I was like, don't you want to, I don't know my last name or something about me first? And you're like, no, it'll be fine. And it was sick. But in that event, you have all of your clients at the show go through this exercise, the highest timeline exercise. Can you explain what that is and why you think it's so significant?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a loaded question for sure. So a few things. I think one, let's describe what a higher timeline is. Let's describe what a lower timeline is. And then I'll kind of try to spark notes humans, if that makes sense. So highest timeline, what you experienced me on in that question of, hey, Kelly brought you to me. I didn't filter you because I didn't need to, because I live in my highest timeline, which means I trust any information that makes its way to me through the people that I trust the most. I don't need to filter information that comes to me anymore because I have filtered everything in my reality already. So nothing is going to come to me anymore that isn't already vetted or something that is going to help me help somebody else or vice versa. That's a hard place to get to for most people. We are naturally skeptical as a species, right? Humans are very deceptive in nature, so it's hard to get there. So a highest timeline basically would be described as you wake up and it's your dream life. Everything that you want, the way that you feel, the money that you make, the people that you have, the energy that you have, the autonomy in your life and your schedule, maybe the car you drive, whatever is important to you, that's your highest timeline. But the highest timeline is essentially a house. And we can switch through timelines all the time. We see this 24/7 with people. And now if we take the lowest timeline would essentially be the polar opposite. It's when you wake up and you are anxious and you're stressed and you're worried about income and opportunities aren't coming to you and your social media is not popping off and you don't have any leads and 5 clients just dropped off and you're going, why does everything keep happening to me? And you're confused. Last month it was amazing, or last week even I had a great week, and now all of a sudden everything's gone. And so I started looking at that and I thought, why are we normalizing this? Because that is what people do. We normalize the negative, and our language around the negative makes it concrete. Our language around the positive makes it fleeting. So we wake up and we have an amazing day, or you make the best day ever. You make $20,000 in a day and you've never made more than 5, and you go, oh my gosh, this was amazing. I just got lucky though. I just got lucky. It's not gonna continue to happen. But if you woke up the next day and you lost $20,000, you would instantly create a permanent conversation around it. Why does this always happen? No matter what I do, something always comes up. I always have financial hardship or I can never get ahead. And that's interesting to me. So humans are very identity-based creatures. Who we believe ourselves to be in the moment dictates our thoughts, our behaviors, our actions, and therefore our results. We are all based on identity. We are always subconsciously asking ourselves the question, do people like me do things like this? And if you've only ever known yourself as somebody who is losing, well, you're not going to experience a win and think this is who I am. You're going to think I got lucky. And so this whole idea of how do we timeline hop, so to speak, I have my clients create, I call this the identity codex. We don't just create a higher and lower timeline. Some people call this your higher self, your lower self, the reality you want, the desired reality, the undesired reality, whatever it is. I like to use it as timelines because I like to see timelines as apartments. So I live in an apartment complex. You've been to my apartment, actually. So you've been in my apartment complex. It's a perfect square. If I get off the elevator and I'm looking at my phone and I got off an abnormal elevator and I'm just walking, I will accidentally try to walk into somebody else's apartment because I'm not paying attention. This is what we do with our timelines because our energy, our attention, and our intention dictate what doors are unlocked for us. So if I can map out, this is exactly what my apartment looks like, my highest timeline. This is exactly what my apartment looks like if I'm on my lowest timeline. Instead of freaking out, it's like me walking into my lowest timeline as somebody else's apartment and the door closes behind me. And I look around and it's not anything that I'm used to. It's not anything that I want. It's a bad couch, whatever. And instead of me saying, oh, this clearly isn't my apartment, let me walk out and find the other door, people sit in that apartment and go, oh no, why is the couch different? Why is it a different smell? This sucks. I'm never going to get back. I could have sworn that this is exactly where my piano was. What gives? This is so unfair. It's like, no, you're just in the wrong house because you took a different intention. You were a little bit more unconscious and you weren't paying as much attention. You went through the wrong door. So if I can create the map essentially of what my lowest timeline looks like and what I experience when I'm in that lowest timeline, I don't have to personally identify with it. I don't have to say what's wrong with me. I don't have to say, why does this always happen? I can literally say, oh, I am in my lowest timeline. Well, what does my highest timeline look like? Oh, that's right. My highest timeline version of me, I get dressed in the morning. I get dressed when I go to work. What am I doing right now? I'm in sweatpants and a tank top and I missed my morning meditation and I'm eating junk food right now. Oh, crap. It's not that I'm having anxiety. It's not that I'm having hardships. It's that I'm literally in a different apartment. So let me immediately get back to higher timeline. Let me go change. Let me grab my coffee. Let me shower. Let me get myself back into the place that I want to be. And then let me go back around my day. And you'll instantly shift yourself back into timelines. I hope that made sense. I tried to condense it.
No, the apartment analogy is perfect. It's literally the perfect analogy. Just walk out of the apartment. And I think there are parts of that can feel a bit heady for some people of like, oh, what do you, all this talk about energy. So if you just progress this and roll this back to its most essential forms, one of the things you suggested in that explanation you gave was the outfit, like dressing a certain way. Like I've felt this recently, and I know everybody listening to this show, or actually to those listening to the show, we're also live on TikTok to 200 plus people listening to the podcast. If you get in shape, and I talk about this all the time, you get physically fit, you buy clothes that fit you well, and if you really got that shit on, as they say, you move differently energetically. You have your chest back, your chest up and your shoulders back. You make eye contact with people. You smile. You move differently. You carry a different energy when your physical appearance, a piece of the higher timeline that Nick's talking about, is tapped into a place that feels true to you and good to you. It's like the old adage, look good, feel good, play good.
Yeah.
So for anyone who feels like they're not necessarily there with the, I don't believe this to be, but some would call it the woo-woo side of it, the timeline, the energy aspect. If you think it's a little too much, roll it back until you can apply the logic of which you are maybe a little bit limited by at the moment until you expand to make it make sense. And to me, the physique and the clothing portion you mentioned, the morning routine, all of those things put you in the apartment, as you say, that you want to be in. And then you just continue building, which brings me to my next question. I think one of the interesting and important aspects of the timeline, or what I would do with my clients in the past, the uh, the U 10.0, the best
Yeah,
version of yourself, is get uncomfortably, I would say very specifically, uncomfortably specific. How does this person look? How do they feel? How do they talk
exactly.
to others? What's their dialogue like? So, what are some examples of extreme specificity in the apartment or timeline that you would make people do to
Yeah,
get there?
it's a great question. So, I first couple things. I understand the reservation for this stuff sounds woo woo. This is spiritual. The whole reason that I built the business that I built was because I saw all the missing gaps in business, and I saw how manipulative the spirituality aspect was. So, like my whole entire business is making the woo woo practical and not stupid. Basically,
Yeah.
it just is what it is. And so I think the first thing to understand is that specificity of what you want actually doesn't help you until you have specificity around where you currently are. Most people are not willing to look fully and uncensored at what they currently are doing, what they're experiencing, what they have, what they don't have. And that is why they never change. You cannot change a situation unless you are fully aware of a situation. You can't change your habits until you first are aware of everything going on. Now, this can kind of look like I wake up every single morning, and instead of keeping my promises to myself, I scroll on social media for 20 minutes. And then I stand up and go piss, but I'm still holding my phone in my hand while I'm taking a piss because I can't get myself to not be dopamine riched for longer than 30 seconds, because then I start to have anxiety and spiral because I'm so overstimulated. I've actually lost the ability to sit with myself. I'm actually afraid to sit in myself. And so I distract myself always, and I convince myself that I'm working. I'm broke. I'm $45,000 in debt. I keep convincing myself that it's this person's fault when really I know it's mine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That hyper specificity of what you currently are doing and experiencing, that creates your lower timeline, and that creates where you are right now. And that is a very hard thing for people to look at. But you have to figure out everything you're currently doing, and then you create the identity. This is who I currently am right now when I'm doing all of these things. And you can, maybe if it's an undesired self, you can create a different name. Right? I'm being Mike right now.
Hey, that's literally my government, bro.
I'm being Jake right now.
I know
Jake's
some
a good.
shitty
We can pick.
Jakes.
Yeah, we can pick on Jake. Never met a Jake that I liked. I'm just kidding. When I'm in this lower timeline, I'm Jake, because remember, humans are identity-based creatures. So now that I've got the specificity and the identity that governs that specificity and those actions, now I can create the map over. So if I want to be Nick, my highest timeline version of Nick, what are the things that I am doing every single day? How am I showing up? How do I wake? I wake up in the morning at 6 a.m. I don't hit snooze. I wake up. I leave my phone plugged in for the first hour of the day while I do my morning routine and meditate. Then I go pick up my phone and I walk through a whole day of specificity. Every time I walk into a room, I make sure I smile and talk to every single person. Every time I'm in the elevator, this one's so easy to do for people. Instead of walking in the elevator and looking down at your phone, you put your phone down and you start conversation with anybody in the elevator, and you find one thing to compliment them on. Dude, those are sick pants. Where'd you buy those? You don't even have to care about the pants. But the simple fact of interacting with a person in a positive way in an enclosed space, you'll see a difference in both of your energy. You'll see that person smile and perk up, and you'll smile and perk up. And then you guys will smile. All right, hey, have a good day. I'm a celebrity in my elevator because everybody knows if you walk in the elevator with me, we're having a conversation. We're going to talk. So going back to us being identity-based creatures, we have identities, and I call it a helmet identity. There's a difference between you practicing you practicing football and then putting on the helmet before you walk on the field for game day. You're a completely different person when that helmet goes on. So our helmet identity usually governs three different core identities. And so I'm going to try to make this quick so it makes sense. So let's just say somebody is sitting here saying, I'm a procrastinator, I never finish what I start, and I'm overweight. These are the three identities. And so those three core identities, they're all going to govern a certain list of actions that that person does, right? Because identities drive behaviors. Oh, I'm going to start this and I'm not going to finish it. Why? Well, because I'm a procrastinator. That's what I do. I've always done this. It's been my whole life. Those are core identities that reinforce all of our behaviors, because when we don't have an identity that governs actions, we don't have anything to live for, because we don't really have anything to live as. And if I don't know who I'm living as, I
Wait,
don't
can you say
really,
that again? That was
if,
so good.
if we don't have, shoot, what did I say? This happens
This
to
is
me
what
really
happens
quick.
when you're in flow state, because you say something so sick and you can't remember.
It's coming back. When you don't have anything to, when you don't have an identity, you don't have anything to live for, because you don't have anything to live as. So
There
when
it
you
is.
don't identify with anything, your actions are empty. There's no intention. You become very unconscious. Life kind of gets dull. You don't really have excitement. You're kind of just going through the motions, and it sucks. So you take this person and you say, okay, cool. You have this identity, these three core identities. Well, there's a helmet identity that these three identities are protecting. And so let's just say that that helmet identity is unworthy of love. So because I am unworthy of love, I am a procrastinator. I am overweight. I am blank. But we don't usually want to admit to ourselves the helmet identity is real. The three here, they're more character traits that we can laugh at and make jokes of and say, oh, that's just who I am, because it's way easier to say, oh, I'm just a procrastinator, instead of saying, I am deeply insecure that I am unworthy of love. But that is the hyper specificity that allows us to create change in the first place. That is the first place I start with every single client, and that is the first place anybody has to start with themselves. So now take this person and just tell them, we don't know anything else about them other than I am unworthy of love, and say, okay, well, start going to the gym every day. Wake up at 5 a.m. Make sure you get daily sunlight. Make sure you read books. Make sure you meditate. Make sure you do breath work. Make sure you do biohack. Make sure you get infrared rays. That's not going to work. They're going to do those actions for a little bit. And like, is this video, people going to be able to see me?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just say this is the identity that you have for yourself, right? And if I start doing all of these actions that I laid out, well, what's going to happen is, as I start to do these actions, maybe I start making a little bit of progress. I start losing some weight. I start following through with what I said I was going to follow through on. Now, all of a sudden, that identity of the procrastinator and the overweight person, it starts to fade off into the distance, almost like I'm swimming away from an island in the ocean. And if I look around, and if I look back, and that island is very foggy, very in the distance, and I look this way and there's nothing there, what am I going to do?
Swim back.
I'm going to swim back. So I'm going to, quote unquote, self-sabotage. Self-sabotage doesn't actually exist. You are just always doing something to reinforce the identity of who you believe yourself to be. You can't self-sabotage. You are hitting the goal that you make 100% of the time. My goal is to continuously prove to myself that I am unworthy of love. So therefore, any actions that I, quote unquote, say I'm going to try different will never work, because this is the kicker, Michael, because I have not created the new helmet that I will put on. So that is why we can see I am unworthy of love, lower timeline. So if I wanted a higher timeline version of me, what is that helmet that I have to put on? For conversation's sake, I'm worthy of love. Okay. If I'm worthy of love, what are the three core identities, right? I always follow through with what I say I'm going to do. I'm in the best shape of my life. I make everybody smile wherever I go, whatever it is. So now those three cores, what are the actions that I do? I'm in the best shape of my life. I run 45 minutes every single day. I hit my diet 6 days a week. I drink a gallon of water a day. And so now, actually, let me do this. So now, as I start taking these new actions and this old identity starts to fade away, I start seeing the new identity come into focus. So there's going to be a little bit of a void where that old identity is gone. And this is where the concept of swimming past the point of no return has to happen. I got to swim so far out into that void that when I turn around, I don't see the island. I don't see the land. I don't see the old self anymore. But I can barely see that island out in the distance. I've gone past the point of no return. I'm tired. I'm losing energy. The only thing that I can do now is keep swimming. And the sooner I get to that island, or the faster I swim, the closer I see that new identity coming. And then boom, I'm embodied.
It's perfect. It's a perfect explanation. That void is a great illustration of the work that people talk about. When people say I've done a lot of work on
Yeah.
myself, a lot of them are full of shit, frankly, because the work can actually be a void. It can be dark. It can be scary. It can be emotional. It can be like the tears that came rolling out of my face during the breathwork session.
Yeah.
That's part of the work, a release of my old identity that can create sobbing. It can create laughter. It can create grief. That is the work, is diving into the void. You know, Carl Jung has such a great quote that I love: the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek.
Mm.
And
We love
for
Young.
me, you're right when you say people would rather joke about their inadequacies that is actually almost entirely rooted in some sort of wound than they would clean the wound out, right? Because when you clean the wound out, what happens? You throw some peroxide, maybe rubbing alcohol in there, you wipe it out, you get the dirt out, but then it's raw and it hurts. But it's the first step of the healing process.
Mm-hmm.
And that void can also be described as the cleaned out wound,
Yeah.
is discovering that inadequacy as you build the new helmet, because the new helmet can't get built when the wound is infected and dirty and just causing more problems. You have to clean it. It's the void, the swim, as many analogies we want to use to build the new helmet, to swim to the new island, for the wound to heal and for scar tissue to form in place of that new identity. Because if you don't, you'll stay stuck.
Yeah.
You'll stay
I always
stuck.
say a wound is proof that you've been hurt, but a scar is testimony that you've been healed. And real leaders can only lead with scars. People try to lead with wounds, and that's why it doesn't work. Because you can feel instinctually when somebody is operating from a wounded place. That is energy.
Yeah.
When we go back
Yeah.
to woo-woo-ness of energy, or however you want to perceive it, you can feel when somebody is operating from a place that is disingenuous. That is energy. You can feel when somebody is the real fucking deal with what they're talking about. That is energy. And so I always say, energy never lies. You can feel it before you see it.
Mm-hmm.
Your attitude and character is felt before your words are heard.
Yeah. And whether you like someone might not like you or they might not like me because one thing I admire about you is you will address tension with people head on. You know, you and I were talking once and you said if I find out someone said something about me and I heard from someone else, we're going in a group chat and I'm addressing it and saying, hey, is this true?
100%.
And people might not like that. Some
People
people
hate
would
it.
love that. People hate
People
it.
hate it.
But it's complex in the way that I think some people hate it because they wish they could be that aligned. And the second thing is whether or not you hate it or you love it, there's a respect and at least an acknowledgement from a deep place of spiritual discernment that he is who he says he is. You know, you may not like me, but if you meet me in public, you're going to get what you see online. I'm not wearing a mask. I am who I am.
Totally.
And not everybody loves that. But at the end of the day, I would rather operate from that place of divine inspiration and acting on the messages God places on my heart than mask myself, which I spent a lot of time doing. But it was only through digging out the wound, crafting the helmet, whatever analogy makes the most sense, that you can get there. And there is such a peace. It's like the book, The Courage to Be Disliked. There is such a peace that comes from that deep alignment. And outside of that, we're talking about purpose and how to build your dream life and your higher timeline. You can, as you so perfectly alluded to, I hate how fucking synchronized we are sometimes, but I love it. You can do all the biohacking, all the routine shit. If you're not in alignment, if you're not cleaning out the wounds, it can only get you so far.
Yeah.
Because you will never be able to act from a place of true aligned inspiration if you are not super tapped in to the identity that you were probably meant to live in, that the wounds, filters, and programming you put in your own mind keep you from stepping into.
It
And it's just not possible.
Doesn't matter how much hot sauce you pour on shit. Nobody wants to eat it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. And so just like to go to the point of what you were saying with like, if somebody, and we just talked about this, just happened to me last weekend, there were people that had told me something about somebody who was very close in proximity to me that was not good, not something that I consider an integrity for that person to be doing. And of course it ended with, don't tell them I told you. Of course I'm going to tell that person that you told me because I am closely and publicly affiliated with them. And if I am around that person's energy, they are held to a higher standard. That doesn't mean I'm perfect. I'm an asshole plenty of times. And I expect my people to check me when I am. And so I went straight to him. And then boom, group texts happen. Hey, this is what was said. This is what I know. What's the deal? And everybody got mad. And I said, hey, If you don't want the truth to go straight to the source, don't bring it to me, because it dies with me. I do not do that. And this is kind of going back to the energy thing. Once you get yourself back into that place, your spiritual hygiene to keep you there is the utmost importance. It's like dieting for 6 months to lose all the weight. And then once you hit your goal weight, you cancel your gym membership and go right back to eating the way that you were. Nobody would do that. Well, people do that, actually.
Yeah, people do that all the time because they don't understand. They don't have the systems and the self-trust and the trust in God to hold on and understand the preciousness or the rarity of that energy. Like you said, that currency, once you step into that frequency, it's so important to you. Let me personalize this. It's so
Please.
important to me. Did you say nice?
I said, please.
Oh,
Just dogging you on your pod. Yeah, it's all make it about you for a second, Michael.
It's so important to me to stay tapped into that frequency that I am now. And like you said, I'm not perfect either. I will still sometimes step into that old programming. I will still find myself saying yes to something I want to say no to. I fall short all the time, but I get a little better every day. But the more anchored and rooted in my pure God created essence that I was made to be on this earth as, the less tolerant I am to people, places, things, and environments that throw me out of that, to the point where I do not have a problem creating friction in my environment, which the people pleasing filter, the aversion to friction at the expense of our own spiritual peace and well-being, is one of, I think, the most common problems people deal with, because at some point they were told they weren't enough, or they were told they were too much, or they had an earthly, worldly desire to fit in with people that didn't really give a shit about them in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep that filter way late into life. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I mean, it's a great, well, very well put. And I'll just add one, it is, from an evolutionary standpoint, we are hardwired to fit in for survival. So we do all have this need to be accepted.
Yes.
And when you get into an online space, for example, and I'll just speak real quick to any content creators or entrepreneurs in your audience, the more growth that you have there, the higher the stakes. So when it's easy to come and be yourself when you have 2,000 followers, and then it's very hard when you have 200,000 followers, because now the stakes are higher. You have way more people who can reject you. And so you start to filter yourself in ways, you start thinking 5 steps ahead. You start playing mental chess. What can I post that's not going to upset anybody to make sure everybody loves me? And what happens is you dilute the message that made you feel alive in the first place. You become neutral, you become room temperature, and then nobody cares about you. And then you start hyperfixating on, what do I have to do in order to get people to engage with me anymore, to care about what I'm saying anymore? You have to care about what you're saying. You have to care about it. And your conviction is what convinces. When people don't have conviction, they have to spend all their time convincing other people. When you're convicted in what you believe and what you say, that conviction is what convinces people for you. So going into the, just like the aspect of what you were saying, when you are boldly convicted in, this is how my life works. And if you don't like that, you can move, you can leave. That's okay. But I gotta have higher standards around stuff like that. Like, my life's a drama-free zone. And in order to do that, friction is necessary. Because when there is conflict, when there is friction, that is actually the only gateway to get us to connection. Connection happens after conflict.
Yes. Yes. That is such an important point. Dude, I am so passionate about this. Oh, okay. I love the quote from my coach, mentor, if you will, Kian. He said to me once, there can be no ascension without the tension.
Mm-hmm.
And people are so scared to sit in tension because it is objectively uncomfortable. It is.
Sucks.
We're both acknowledging that. The tension of, checking a loved one for bad habits or an addiction, or the tension of a breakup because maybe you want the person back. The tension of telling a friend that you're not happy or proud with the way they're acting. That tension is brutally uncomfortable, and it doesn't always come out the way you would have hoped, but it comes out the way that it should have. Because if you are able to sit in the tension of what is ultimately the truth, there is just the truth. There's not my truth, your truth. If I'm fucking up and you tell me about it, that's probably the truth. And if multiple people tell me about it and rebuke me about it, it's definitely the truth. But the problem is, I think the example that just came up for me is I think all the time about, I hear people who have friends who are in relationships with people that the friends know is not the right person for them, and
Yeah.
they let that person get married to that human being. And to me, it's like if all 5 or 6 of you feel the same exact way about this man or this woman that your friend is with, and you're not saying anything, you're a shitty friend. You're a bad friend because you can't sit in the tension. And so the beauty of this, and the more I do this in my life, it sucks every fucking time, but my life gets better every single time without fail. You cannot rise and level up in life unless you give something. And the giving is the release and the surrender of trying to control and sitting in the tension of what is true and what you know to be true and speaking it so that you can rise above it and beyond it and become more anchored in who you truly are.
Hmm.
But if you cannot do that, life is going to be very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, that's alchemy, right? Law of equivalent exchange. If you want to attain something, you have to give something of equal or greater value first. So if you want the relationship of your dreams, it's going to cost you the relationship you currently have. If you want a new friend group that aligns, you're going to have to walk away from the current friend group that you have. If you want a better physique, you have to walk away from the shitty physique. Everything in life is a
So
trade.
good.
Everything. But this is why I love the verbiage of this. Something of equal or greater value must first be lost. Not once you see the thing that you have, then you can conveniently let this go and then it just immediately replaces it. No, it goes back to the swimming analogy. You must go in the void. You must. And if you're trying to level up a friend group right now, maybe your friend group is your friend group from high school and you're the only one who grew and they didn't grow, and you keep trying to dumb yourself down to have the same conversations with them still because you're too afraid to be alone. That act of being alone is what builds you into the person that attracts the new friend group. Because when you walk away from people you no longer align with, you are no longer playing a character to try to fit in and be accepted. And what happens is that time of quote unquote loneliness is you start to become familiar with yourself in your own presence. You start to not have any other outside influence. You say, what music do I like to listen to? What do I like to do in the mornings? What do I like to eat for lunch? What do I like to do for dinner? And eventually, after 1, 2, 3, maybe 6 to 8 months, you have your routine. You are a person that you love and you are fully accepted and convicted in what you love to do. Boom, there comes the next people because they are drawn to somebody who is their own person, not who is trying to blend in to be accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. The void, as you describe it, just creates space. I've been meditating so much on the concept of creating space. And it
Mm-hmm.
is an absolute law. As you said, you cannot sort of see that thing off in the distance that you love and is meant for you. No, no, no. You will not see it until you remove what
Mm-hmm.
is occupying the space where that thing should be. And I know I'm speaking to someone directly right now. That friend, that girlfriend, that boyfriend, that job, that husband, that wife that you know in your soul is not meant for you. And you're doing everything you can to deny it, ignore it, wrestle with it. You need to surrender to it. You need to surrender to it
It's a good
because when you
word.
remove, when you remove, it is a good word, isn't it, Nick? When you remove that thing, you then create space inevitably through a degree of self trust and trust in God that is not always easy to act on. You create the space for something of greater, I would argue, not even greater, or not even equal, rather, greater value to take its place. And then the more you do that, the more you continue to do that in your life, you almost become addicted to it because you
Mm-hmm.
develop such a degree of trust. You're like, oh, this isn't exactly what I want. Bye. This isn't the job I want. Bye. Because I know through trust in God, trust in self, and proof, evidence of it working in the past, that when I continue to create space and sit in the tension, I continue to ascend.
Yeah.
It's a simple but not easy rule to live by, but gosh, is it worth it?
Well, I mean, really what you're describing is faith, right? And
Yeah.
faith is not certainty. Faith is uncertainty. If you have certainty, you have no need for faith. Faith is not, I know exactly what's going to happen and how things are going to work out, so now I'll do it. Faith is, I have no idea how it's going to happen or work out, but I trust that this intuitive feeling to walk away, to move on, to do the next thing, to start the new venture is there for a reason. And there's a big difference between trauma and intuition. And it's hard for people to understand this, but I break it down as simple as possible. Trauma is typically rooted in avoidance. No, I'm not going to have that conversation. I'm not going to do that thing. That's not an alignment for me. And it brings you unrest. You're anxious or worked up. Intuition typically feels very difficult and hard, but deeper down, there is a sense of peace and knowing that it is the truth. And so that's how I can decipher, because intuition and trauma, they're both going to hurt. Only one is going to bring you to something that shows you why the pain was worth it.
That's so good. Intuition and trauma are both going to hurt.
Yeah.
I think having a deep understanding of that is so important. The only way out is through. Like, the only way out of the bad situation is
I
through
disagree.
the muck.
You can turn around. You can turn around and pretend for a little bit.
Yeah.
You can get out of it for a second, like a short-lived out of it. Oh, okay, I'm good. We got back together. That's the toxic cycles. Your soul wants to leave, but your trauma wants to stay. And so you halfway in and you go, no, I can't do this. And you go back and you get that temporary relief, that temporary, whew, the euphoria, the makeup sex, the I don't experience loss anymore. That, oh man, that experiencing loss can really control a human. Let's paint this picture for a second. Michael, you go to leave the club, and right before you get in the Uber, you go to grab your phone out of your pocket and your phone's not there. What do?
I go back into the club and look for it.
It's the only thing that matters, because loss completely hijacks our awareness. So when we experience loss, the only thing we care about is getting out of the feeling of loss. And typically, the fastest way to get out of the feeling of loss is to get back the thing that created the feeling of loss. That's why we go back to friend groups, back to partners, back to jobs, back to things that don't really fulfill us or really support where we're going, because we can't go right over that edge and really sit with those emotions. We're trying to avoid them.
Yeah. I mean, I have zero notes, but what you said about what stands out to me there is loss hijacks our awareness. So if you realize you lost your phone in the club, or I lost my phone in the club, I forget that I had to go home. Like, I was going somewhere. I was headed in a direction. I was headed out of this place I was in. But now
I'm going right back in.
the loss, I'm going right back into the shit that I was like, dude, it's late. Everybody's drinking. I got to get out of here. Nothing good happens after midnight. Whatever the hell it is you want to say. You go back into it because you feel like you lost something instead of sitting in that tension. Mm-hmm. I really want to drive. I have such a personal stake in this situation of, honestly, that fear of loneliness at times.
Yeah. You and me both. I share that with you.
Yeah. We both have past experiences that shaped and filtered our programming to where we were afraid to commit certain acts of self-love. For example, walking away from a situation that didn't serve us. Mm-hmm. I had a best friend for over a decade that I let stay in my life, even though he was a destructive person and a toxic person. And he had all of this damage built up in his body that was literally, he was just fully projecting it onto me to the point of physically altercating with me at times.
Yeah.
And that was like one of my first acts of self-love, was finally axing him out of my life. And the peace that followed, the void of like, oh, fuck, my best friend's not in the picture anymore. I've got a whole new group of friends now that would literally go to war for me.
Yeah.
But I might not have ever met them if I kept him in my life.
Well, you went to war for yourself. So now you attracted people that will also go to war with you.
Yeah.
That's energy.
That is energy. And that energy can be felt. People really admire, again, I'll personalize this so I don't presume for anyone, but I admire people, and I'm working towards this every day, who can be the person who are willing to perform an act of self-love that creates a great deal of pain in the present moment. Because those are people that are going to have whatever they want out of their lives 100% of the time. Maybe not now, maybe not in 6 months. It is inevitable.
I think it goes back to sacrifice. Like, everything in life is a sacrifice. And, like I recently, you are familiar with this. I recently just walked away from a relationship with a woman who was incredible, an amazing woman, and everything I'd ever wanted. But there was just a misalignment. There was just this piece where we couldn't fully understand each other. And it could have been so easy for me to hold on to that and say, she's everything. She's perfect. She's beautiful, mom, wife, etc. But there was something in me that said, you got to walk away for both of you. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's harder to walk away when things are good. It's easy to walk away when things are bad. That's easy. But you can protect people by walking away when they're good if you can listen to that intuition. It's the easier way out to stay long enough for it to get awful. You know what I think it's called the distance beta paradox. Do you know what that is? I might have butchered that, so you probably haven't heard of it because it's probably not real.
Is it the region beta paradox?
Basically, if it's less than a mile, you'll walk. If it's more than 2 miles, you'll drive. So the harder the situation, the faster you get yourself out of it. What is it called?
Yeah. The region beta paradox.
Region beta paradox. I was close. What did I say?
You were
distance?
You said distance beta paradox, which literally makes sense.
Yeah.
Distance is the analogy, but the explanation I heard from Chris Williamson is
if it's less than a mile, as well.
If it's less than a mile, we walk it. Paradoxically, if it's more than a mile, we drive it. So paradoxically, we get to the further point faster than we do the shorter point because we're walking versus driving.
Yeah.
So what that means, right, is that people would sometimes be better off in a worse situation because almost good enough keeps people stuck.
And then more damage is done because you're in it for longer.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And they continue to ignore that feeling. And then eventually it gets so bad and there's so much resentment in the gig, the job, the friend, the wife, the husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, that it's like you have to separate and it's brutal.
Yeah. And like I look at, I had a prior relationship to this one where we stayed in it way too long and a lot of really bad stuff happened because neither of us were brave enough essentially to end it. And I think that's on me as the man. Truly, I think that's on me to do that. But you live and you learn. And so that is why, with this one, that was where I had learned from, hey, I love you so much. You are an amazing person. And I'm not going to jeopardize how I see you because I'm too much of a coward to put myself in pain right now. That's very hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you, man. Wow, I really do.
Yeah.
But the more, and I'm speaking to maybe us, but maybe them who's listening, the more that we can do that and develop the feeling of that, the closer we can get to our purpose, our passion, what lights us up, what makes us feel alive. And, I think there's a lot of power sometimes in the simple exercise. I mean, you had everybody at the event, going back to the higher timeline, you had everybody write it down. I wrote it down. Everybody wrote it down, exactly what their life looked like to the nth.
Yep.
I had a girl get on my coaching call today, one of my clients, and she has a dream to be a trainer. She's doing it on the side. She has a great stable job, so she thinks. And she was like, but I can't get out of my own head or out of my own way to really follow my dream. And I said, all right, here's what we're going to do. Tell me every detail. Financially, what's your plan? Do you have a spouse? We're going to write it all out. And we labeled out everything: her current state, the job market in which her job exists within, her spouse, do they support her? We got very specific. And I read it all back to her current life situation. And I said, doesn't that kind of sound like the perfect situation to quit your job and chase your dream? And she said, yeah, it kind of does. And I said, I'm not telling you to do anything. I just said what you said to me back to you, and I want you to make the decision that feels right. Mm-hmm. I say all that to say, if anyone out there finds themselves in that region beta paradox situation when they heard this of the, oh shit, my situation's only just good enough, maybe write down your life, write down the lower timeline or the current timeline, and write down exactly where you are in every facet and write down where you want to be. And you draw a certain awareness, I use that word a couple of times, awareness to both of those things. And then that discernment, that voice in your head, your soul, becomes a lot louder if it's not aligned with who you want to be. I've found a lot of power in the written word.
I have found, to just beef this up, I have truly found, and this is like one of the core pillars of my work, is that awareness really is a key that unlocks almost, if not everything somebody wants in their life. And so learning how to train, use, and weaponize your awareness to make yourself do actions, to create realities, to shift timelines, is truly one of the most invaluable skills that I think you could possibly instill to yourself or to other people. Awareness is what creates realities.
Yeah.
Training it.
If you're not aware of a world beyond the one that you're in, you'll never see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like
How do you,
I can't hear a dog whistle because I'm not a dog. I'm not on that frequency. I don't have good enough
but you
ears.
got that dog in you though.
I am a dog, but
Yeah.
like I'm a DAWG. No, I'm just kidding. But like the point is, if I can't hear or see the frequency of someone else, of course that world of awareness doesn't exist to me because I'm
Yeah.
not aware of it. Simply put, like it doesn't get simpler than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think like you had mentioned something and this just came back up. So I want to tap on it where you said a friend dating somebody, everybody thinks that they're a bad person, but nobody says anything. And then they end up getting married. They're all shitty friends. There's also the flip side of this where everybody does say something and that person still continues to stay and get married to them. And so this is where we have the worldview, the ego view, and then we have call it the soul view, the consciousness view, like the higher macro universal view of things going on. In order for our consciousness to evolve as humans, we have to make mistakes. We have to go through suffering and pain and very hard things. That is how we work our way up the consciousness scale. And that is kind of the whole reason we're here, is to elevate our consciousness. So when you look at things like somebody keeping themselves somewhere and you create this savior complex of, well, why won't they listen to me? I've been telling them the truth. They won't listen to me. And you start to take it personally. You are forgetting that their soul has a path. And I might not agree with that path. I might not agree with a lot of things that are happening in the world right now. I might not agree with some of the wars that are happening overseas and innocent people dying. But is that my place? If I know macro, that happening over there is exactly what needs to happen for conscious evolution to take place, for eventually everybody to stop fighting and say, what are we doing? That's a level of restraint that is very hard to get to because we derive a lot of value from being the person who saves other people.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have to
not
suffer.
our job.
Sometimes letting somebody suffer is the most loving thing you can do for them. That is a hard line to walk.
Yeah. This is something I struggled with in the past, like that savior complex of thinking like, oh, if I could just make them see, if I could just make, you can't. I can't.
No.
You got to let them go. It's why, go ahead.
I was going to say one of the bigger traps people with savior complexes get in is we can't save everybody, but we've learned how to save people from point A to point B. So what we do is we attract people that are stuck at point A, and we get to save them and nurture them and groom them to point B. And then the relationship fizzles out because we don't know how to take anybody from point B to C. So then we go back to find the next quote unquote person. I don't know why I said quote unquote. I was going to say victim, but then it sounded a little weird. The next person struggling at point A, and we go, I can save you. I can change your whole life. And really what's happening is we actually don't care about saving them. We care about proving to ourselves that we're saving people. Mm-hmm. So it becomes manipulative.
Exactly right. That's deeper than some people could even go on that complex. But it's why one of my favorite is for people also to intrinsically understand when they're going through suffering that it's teaching them something. One of my favorite pieces of scripture is James 1:2-4. It's counted all joy when you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance run its course so that you may be complete and lacking nothing. And the end of that phrase is so important. Trials, hard shit, suffering literally makes us complete so that we lack nothing, so that, as you said, we move up the consciousness scale.
Yeah.
I would not be who I am, and I would not be able to talk about these things with you if my dad hadn't died. Right. If I hadn't taken him through that suffering, if I hadn't suffered with him, if I hadn't been through breakups, if I hadn't been through things that were just so shitty in the moment, I would not be equipped and aware that conversations like this could take place so that I could do my best in sharing my ideas and us sharing our ideas in this podcast to make someone go, huh.
Yeah.
And then they come to that conclusion on their own because they're moving up the consciousness scale on their own.
And I think one of the most valuable, if not, especially as entrepreneurs, the number one tool in your belt that will make you the most amount of money and have the most amount of impact is empathy. And empathy is not learned, it is forged through the fire. But
Yeah.
here's the issue. You can't forge steel at room temperature.
It's in the fire.
It's in the fire.
It's in the middle. Steel has to go in the middle of
Yeah.
the fire. That is sanctification.
Mm-hmm.
That is
And
what actually needs to take place.
yeah. And so I think I would like to go into, because you brought up your dad and how we process that. I would love to bring up your experience of the event and what that looks like, because I think it's a great bridge
Yeah.
into how trauma mentally manifests physically, and how simple it is to actually relieve that when you have the right tools, the right practice, and the right intention. So do you want to just give us, tell us your experience?
Yes, of course. I'd love to talk about the unpacking of my trauma through breathing rapidly for an hour.
I thought you'd never ask.
Yeah,
That sounds silly when you put it like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You said simple. Silly can also be interchanged with simple, but I like how we both have just blender bottles, just fucking just meatheads.
Yeah.
So Nick, at his event in Austin, had a booked window of this event where we did a somatic breathwork session. I've never heard of it. I never heard of somatic. I knew breathwork through Wim Hof.
Yeah.
Or through
I do
box
these
breathing.
at the end of all days. Every day we end with a breathwork session, because we do a lot. I mean, you were there. A lot of them. We do a lot of reprogramming, a lot of meditation, a lot of workshop, a lot of teaching, and then we release everything. And then the next day we fill in the next, and then we release. And it's
crazy. And the night I met you, we were at your apartment, and you'd asked me if I had some nagging pains, and I said, yeah, my low back for like 6 months, which was the amount of time roughly that my dad had been gone.
Mm-hmm.
My body had like stored that trauma somewhere. And you said, well, let's do this breath work and just see how you're feeling afterward. And I was like, what is he talking about? What do you mean? What? And so we do the breath work, which the somatic breath work, for those who don't know what it is, it's a very particular pattern of breathing. It's a in, out, in belly, in chest, out, correct?
There's multiple ways. That's the one that we did. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so it sounds like, oh, I'm not sure if my mic picks that up, but you repeat that and you do not stop. Your mouth gets dry. Yep. You start to tingle in weird places on your body. Yep. Weird shit begins to happen. And the best way I can describe it is the way who my friend and coach Kian described it when we started talking about it. He said, the only way I can describe stuff like that is I cannot explain the experience I had, nor can I deny it.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, yeah, that's kind of, like I don't know what the hell was going on with my body, but through this breath work, and then I want you to explain what was happening to me practically.
Yeah, totally.
It was like 5 to 7 minutes of this sucks and is uncomfortable and my mouth is dry and I want to stop. And then like 10 to 15 minutes, I started to feel euphoric. And then like we did this for an hour, by the way, guys. For an hour, we breathed like this. And I began to just very clearly in my mind see the most traumatic moments of my dad's sickness where I had to be there for him, that in the moment to survive and show up, I disassociated.
Yep.
It was so horrific for my inner child, for my mom, for him, that I was like, I got to shut this part off. And my body held on to that because I didn't process it. And so the byproduct of seeing that again so clearly, and like, I guess what would be my mind's eye, was just this insane emotional release, just weeping to the point where Nick like came over to me and put his hand on my shoulder and was like, you said you don't have to be strong right now. Keyword, right now.
Yeah.
Surrender to this. And I just went in it, man. And I just wept.
Yeah, you did.
I wept for him, for my mom, for the kid in me. And then after, I started laughing. And then when we get out, I felt physically lighter. I felt my back loosen up.
And that
what was happening to me?
That nagging back pain was completely gone.
Yeah. So what happened? Like practically, what happened to me?
Man, okay. I'll try to keep this relatively dense. And like I'm not like I've done my practice and my training and breath work and stuff, but I'm sure there's people listening that can be like, this is actually, and this is better, and this is a more advanced way. So like bear with me while I try to layman's term this. Basically, when you start breathing in breath work, after about 10 to 12 minutes, you go into a state called transient hyperfrontality, which basically means the front part of your brain shuts off. That's the part of your brain that is logistical, analytical, and makes you, essentially your ego shuts up. Let's just say it like that, right? This isn't working. This is stupid. My mouth hurts. My mouth's dry. Oh my God, I think my phone's ringing. You go into a state, transient hyperfrontality. Takes about 10 to 12 minutes for most people to get there. And this is exactly like you said, about 10 minutes in, you started feeling a little euphoric. You start dissociating in a more conscious way, I guess, for lack of a better word. And then the other part of this is that DMT, which is the most powerful psychedelic on the planet, the thing that makes your life flash before your eyes before you die, is dominantly produced in our lungs. So when we start breathing like this, we are getting a massive surge of DMT. So essentially, you're having a psychedelic experience without taking psychedelics, because the body can produce naturally its own psychedelics. And I'm a huge advocate of psychedelics. I use them frequently, very respectfully. And what I love about psychedelics is they are going to show you what you need to see, whether you're ready to see it or not. And that is exactly what we have the power to do to ourselves when we have intention and we become aware of what we're doing. So what happened in this breathwork session is you set an intention because of everything we had done up to that day, and your subconscious knew exactly where you needed to go in order to heal and release what was blocking you the most. So you went back to this memory because your brain was not analytical, saying, why am I seeing this? This isn't real. This is stupid. I should wake up. You were fully immersed in that memory, and therefore back to the place where you dissociated, and everything came back online. The body stores, the body keeps the score. It's a great book if anybody wants to read it. The body keeps the score. And so once you reassociated, so to speak, you gave the body permission to let go. I am safe right now. I don't have to hold this. And to your point, what you needed to hear in this moment was, you don't have to be strong right now, because you convinced yourself you had to be strong and not feel that in the moment, but you never got yourself out of that fear response in a safe place where we could release it. So I believe what we do at these events, what we will do at our Austin event, this is truly the path of the warrior. It takes a warrior's mentality to go back and relive these things, to let them go and free yourself from the shackles of your past, literally. And one thing I'll say on this is why somatic therapy is so incredible, because, I mean, you were in that room, you hear people screaming, crying, laughing, having conversations. It's whatever the experience needs to happen. I'm cool. If you like it, I love it. Doesn't matter to me. And sometimes people will come out of the experience and just have experienced the utmost rage for no reason. And they come out and they say, I have no idea where that came from. But do you feel better? Yeah. Perfect. Then it doesn't matter. Exactly. And that's what's beautiful about somatic therapy, is you can release it without having to intellectualize what it was. So that's spark notes of what happened to you in that situation.
Perfect explanation. That's exactly as you explained it to me after it happened. And I hope that gives people an understanding. Man, we've covered a lot.
I know.
It's so incredible. We came into this with no script, no plan, no topics, no ideas. But I think we've given people a great idea of what they can expect. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that I will say with this and events, I guess I'll make it personal to me. I have created multiple, as Michael graciously said in the beginning of the video, I have built multiple 7-figure businesses, all organically, through the power of awareness, intention, understanding consciousness, understanding how I need to show up and what I need to let go of and help other people let go of. And so this work that I do, especially live in person, is the most sacred part of my entire business. And I know it can feel weird. I know it can feel, there's a lot of obstacles to get in person. And those obstacles, overcoming those obstacles, getting out of a normal routine, getting out of your normal friend group, your normal room, your normal office, to get somewhere brand new where you can block out all of your old patterns and literally let go, reprogram yourself, and go back to a new life. is truly, I think, one of the most invaluable things in this entire world.
I agree. And if someone listened to this, as we said earlier, we're making this episode to give you an understanding of, for those who listen to my show, who Nick is and what you can expect when he comes into the room to talk to you about stuff. Hopefully you have a clear understanding of exactly why I'm so excited about this now with Nick partnering with me. And if the next thing I'll say is I got so much, even though I was a speaker for most of Nick's event, your event in Austin, I was just a participant. And I had never really done anything like that before. I invest a lot of time and frankly money into my self-development, but never in the form of events. So I just, anyone out there who's feeling like, ooh, I don't know if I want to do that event because it feels uncomfortable, that's the tension. And there
Yeah,
can be no ascension without the tension. So lean into it. We would love to see you at the events in either Tampa, September 5th, Atlanta, October 24th, or Austin, the grand finale, December 4th to the 6th. And the link will be in the description of this show to get a ticket at a discounted rate, because if you're still here, you
we love you.
absolutely deserve that in the world, and we love you. And I really hope to see you guys in person, because I think what we're gonna throw down in these three cities is going to be powerful for me, for him, and for anyone who chooses to go. So we love you. We're excited to meet you. Nick, thanks for hopping on, man. I'm so fucking excited for the first show next month.
Thanks for having me, brother.
You got it, man. You got it. We'll see y'all in the next episode. Peace.